Welcome to this explainer on solo leveling the rise of the Shadow Monarch. Today, we're diving into a story that's built on blood, absolutely impossible odds, and just a relentless refusal to die. You know, in this world, magic and monsters, they're completely real. Society worships the strong and pretty much just discards the weak. Your predetermined power level literally dictates your worth. You're either the predator or you're the prey. But what happens when the absolute weakest link in the chain decides to completely rewrite his own destiny? Okay, let's dive into this. This is Sung Jinwoo. For the longest time, the entire world had just completely written him off as the weakest hunter alive. I mean, he wasn't some powerhouse. He was just a quiet, unassuming guy trying to pay his mom's medical bills in a profession where, honestly, stepping out your front door usually meant a death sentence.
To really grasp his journey, you've got to understand where he started. His weakness wasn't a lack of courage. Far from it, actually. It was just a cruel, unrelenting destiny. No innate talent, no magical power reserves. He literally had no future in the eyes of the Hunter Association. He was pitied by the kind, laughed at by the arrogant, and every single time he stepped into a dungeon, it was this brutal, physical reminder of his place at the absolute bottom of the food chain. Every battle pushed him right to the brink of death. And this brilliantly illustrates the turning point, the double dungeon. It was this impossible, hidden trial that slaughtered his team and left him broken on an altar. It was right here, in his final bloody moments, when literally anyone else would have just surrendered to death, that a mysterious system presented him with an impossible choice: become a player. So, what truly separates Jinwoo from every other elite hunter out there? It's how he survived. While others relied on innate talents, easy shortcuts, or, super expensive gear, Jinwoo relied entirely on raw, unfiltered determination. He didn't just accept pain, he embraced it. It was basically the only currency he had to buy his survival. The system gave him daily quests, sure, but it was his obsessive drive that turned those quests into a forge. While the rest of the world slept securely in their beds, he was out there training. He fought his way through penalty zones, surviving fire, venom, and just sheer agony. Every single wound carved a new lesson into his flesh, and he pushed his frail body until it completely, utterly collapsed. But a physical collapse, that was never the end of the session for him. Forcing oxygen into his burning lungs, he stood back up. He threw himself back into the fray, again and again, fighting past the muscle tears, past the pure exhaustion. And again, day after brutal day, until the very boundaries of his reality completely shattered. His limits disappeared. His fear disappeared. His weakness vanished entirely. Let's move to and see how this builds, because the metamorphosis is just stark. On one hand, you have the frail, desperate human bleeding out on a dungeon floor. On the other, a terrifying, composed, almost ethereal aura. His posture, his eyes, his energy, it's a complete physical and spiritual rebirth. The hunter that everyone used to ignore was no longer even seen as human. When he stepped onto a battlefield, the air grew incredibly heavy. His enemies didn't see an underdog or a victim anymore. They looked into those glowing blue eyes and literally saw death walking toward them. I mean, the loudest, most chaotic dungeons would fall completely silent just from his presence. Even the monsters hesitated. The whole atmosphere would change entirely. The sky would darken, choking out the light, violent blue lightning would tear through the heavens, and the very earth would tremble beneath his footsteps. It wasn't just a hunter entering the fray anymore. It was the realization across the entire battlefield that a new king had arrived. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that the mechanics of his new power are fundamentally broken. The anatomy of his Shadow Legion is staggering. We aren't just talking about a small squad. This scales up to tens of thousands of immortal soldiers. And the most terrifying part? Every single enemy he slays permanently becomes a new recruit. He assimilates their strength, and they are bound not by fear, but by absolute, unquestioning loyalty. Within this unstoppable legion are his commanders, the Shadow Generals, and they just radiate this monstrous, glowing aura. You've got the Honorable Knight Ygritte, the immovable Iron, the Savage Tank, and the devastating Mage Kiba. These guys were once catastrophic, boss-level threats, and now they kneel in the darkness, just waiting for his command. So the crucial point is, all of this overwhelming might wasn't handed to him by fate. It wasn't born out of a simple desire for revenge either. It was pure, unadulterated evolution. It proves that true, world-bending power belongs only to those who absolutely refuse to surrender when the world demands that they die. He ascended way beyond just being a mere player or even the strongest human hunter. He became the vessel for something ancient and entirely unfathomable. This colossal, godlike entity looming in the darkness. He became the Shadow Monarch. When the ultimate darkness called out to him, when the weight of the entire world and the threat of total annihilation pressed down, he didn't run. He didn't hide. He stepped forward and he answered.
And with that single, legendary command, the entire world bowed to his absolute authority. Arise.
And you know what the most exciting part is? This incredible journey is jumping straight from our screens to something even bigger. For everyone captivated by this breathtaking evolution, the story is actually expanding. An official anime movie is currently in development, and it's potentially eyeing an early 2027 release. We are going to see this cinematic masterpiece on a scale we've never witnessed before, bringing the Legion, the Blue Lightning, and all that absolute hype to audiences worldwide. Sung Jinwoo proved that limits are really just an illusion, and that even the weakest among us can rise to rule the shadows if they just refuse to quit. So I'll leave you with this final thought as we wrap up this explainer. When you are pushed to your absolute limit, when the odds are completely impossible, will you answer when darkness calls? Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.